Ming Mei's father returned home to their town called Busan. The dragon wanted to meet Ming Mei, and he discovered no beauty in the world could take advantage in her case. She was kind, lovely with the animals, and intelligent. Yang Tao fell in love with her. The dragon treated Ming Mei with a lot of kindness. He was never rude to her. He let her stay in the biggest room and let her roam in the beautiful garden. Ming Mei would sit near the fireplace and worked on her sculptures in the porcelain pots while the dragon kept her company. At first, Ming Mei was afraid of Yang Tao, but slowly she began to like him. Ming Mei was frightened of the dragon and shuddered at the sight of it. Then she found out that in spite of the monster's awful her horror of it was greatly fading as the time went by. She had one of the finest rooms in the castle, and sat for hours embroidering in front of the fire. And Yang Tao would sit for hours on the end, only a short distance away, silently gazing at her. Then it started to say a few kind words, till in the end she was amazed to discover that she was actually enjoying the conversation. Days passed, and Ming Mei and Yang Tao became good friends. Yang Tao asked Ming Mei to be his wife. Taken by surprise, Ming Mei did not know what to say. Marry such an ugly monster? She would rather die. But she did not want to hurt the feelings of the one who, after all, had been kind to her. And she remembered, too, that she owned in her own life as well as her father. I really can't say yes, she began shakily. I would so much like to. The dragon interrupted an abrupt gesture. I quite understand. I'm not offended by your refusal. Life went on as usual. Nothing further was said. One day, the dragon presented Ming Mei with a magnificent magic mirror. When she peeped into it, she would see her family far away. You won't feel so lonely now, were the words that accompanied the gift. Ming Mei stared for hours at her distant family. Then she began to feel worried. One day, Yang Tao found her weeping beside the magic mirror. What's wrong? He asked kindly as always. My father is gravely ill and close to dying. Oh, I wish I could see him again before it's too late. But the dragon only shook his head. Please let me go home. I only want to see my father before he dies. But the dragon roared. No, you promised you would never leave this castle. Saying this, he stormed out of the room. But after some time, he came back to Ming Mei and said, You may go to stay with your father for 7 days, but you must promise to return after that. I swear I will. How kind you are. You made a loving daughter so happy. In reality, the merchant had fallen ill from a broken heart at knowing his daughter was being kept prisoner. When he embraced her again, he was soon on the road to recovering. Ming Mei stayed beside him for hours on end, describing her life at the castle and explaining that the dragon was really good and kind. The days flashed past, and at the last, the merchant was able to leave his bed. He was completely well again. Ming Mei was happy at last. However, she failed to notice that 7 days had gone past. Then one night she woke from a terrible nightmare. In the dream, Yangto was dying, calling for her, twisting in agony. Come back to me, come back to me. It was pleading. The solemn promise she had made drove her to leave home immediately. Hurry, hurry, Mingmei, she said, whipping her straight onwards towards the castle. After that, she might arrive too late. She rushed up the stairs, calling, but no one replied. Her heart in her mouth, Mingmei ran into the garden, and there crouched the dragon, its eyes shut, as thought dead. She threw herself at it and hugged it tightly. How I have been longing for this moment, he said. I have been suffering in silence and couldn't tell my frightful secret. An evil witch turned me into a monster, and only the love of a maiden willing to accept me as I was could transform me back into my real self. My dearest, I'll be so happy if you will marry me. Can you just love such an ugly creature as I am? Asked the beast. You only came just in time. I was dying because I thought you had forgotten your promise. Go back and rest. I shall see you by and by. Mingmei went back to the palace, where supper was awaiting her. And afterward, the dragon came as usual and asked about the time she had spent with her family and if they had been very glad to see her. When at least the time came for him to go, he asked, as he had so often asked before, Mingmei, would you marry me? She answered softly, Yes, my dear beast. As she spoke, a blaze of light sprang up before the windows of the palace. Fireworks crackled and guns banged, and across the avenue of orange trees, in letters all made of fireflies, was written, Long live the prince and his bride. Beauty meant to ask the beast what it meant, but he had gone. In his place stood her long-loved prince. At the same moment, two ladies entered the room. Both were splendidly dressed, but one especially so. Her companion said, Well, Queen, this is Beauty, who has had the courage to rescue her son from the terrible magic spell that turned him into a beast. They love one another, and your consent to the marriage is all they need to make them perfectly happy. I agree with all my heart, cried the queen. Then she tenderly embraced the Beauty and the prince. Now, I suppose you would like me to send for your father, asked the fairy. She did so. Mingmei discovered how blind she was by taking the first appearance and feelings. She truly loved Yan Tao, and finally they were enjoying their future lives together. Yang Tao felt happy about having Mingmei as his wife, and he turned into the wonderful and kind man she always dreamed with. A great celebration was being at the castle. Many festivals and fireworks were celebrating the turning of our emperor. The marriage was celebrated the very next day, and Mingmei and the emperor lived happily ever after. The wedding took place shortly after, and from that day on, the young emperor would have nothing but blossom in his gardens, and that's why to this day the castle is known as Castle of the Blossom.